Okay, hi everybody. Hope you can hear me. First of all, thank you very much for joining us tonight, this evening. Um, I know there's a lot going on for teachers, especially at the moment. So we really appreciate you guys joining tonight. My name is Ciara Power. I'm from Waterford in Ireland. I'm currently teaching in Dublin. I'm an English, French, and film studies teacher. Um, so I'll just briefly talk you through what we're going to discuss this evening. First of all, I'll just tell you what the European Film Factory project actually is. Then I will share my screen with you and show you the platform and the tools and how to use it. And then my colleague, Edmund Bean, um, who's also a teacher from Ireland. Edmund, would you like to just say a few words, just introduce yourself?
Yeah, I know that photograph or that image in the camera is not great, whatever is wrong with my camera. But no, it's great to be here tonight. And like that, like Kira, I'm a teacher of English as well. So I'm really looking forward to sharing a few insights with you tonight and from hearing your responses as well through the chat. So we'll chat later on. Thanks, Kira.
Okay, Edmund there will then bring you through a step-by-step guide on how to implement activities in the classroom based on one of the movies from the platform, which is the Irish movie, The Secret of Kells. Just to begin, then, just a little bit about the project itself. It's a project led by the Institut Français in collaboration with Arte and European Schoolnet. So the aim of the project really is to bring European cinema and film education in general into the classroom, and bring it into the classroom in a way that's meaningful and interactive for the students. So an online platform for film education was created. Because another aim of the project as well is to create a community of teachers and students all across Europe who have a passion for film and film education. Very briefly, then, the platform it gives you free access to 10 films. Um, this platform is accessible to all countries participating in Creative Europe Media. It's available to teachers of secondary education, and it's appropriate for students between the ages of 11 and 18. I'll take you through the platform now in a minute, just to briefly explain what I'm going to show you. So the platform itself, like I said, it has 10 European language films available in the 8 languages of the platform. For each film, there's an educational kit that was written by the focus group, which included teachers of different backgrounds, like myself and Edmund. On the platform, then, there are innovative tools that help the students to fully engage in the process of film analysis and discussion. And as I said, the films are available in the 8 languages, as are the educational kits. So any teacher that registers to the platform will have access to these films in whatever language. Um, okay, so I'm just going to share my screen now and just bring you through the actual process of registering on the website, setting up an account, and using the tools that are available. Okay, so I hope everybody can see that. Um, I'll briefly just take you through the process then. So first of all, you go to the link here, europeanfilmfactory.eu. This is the homepage that will greet you. So you click here for free registration. I am a teacher. I want free access for myself and my students. So you sign up by clicking this button. You will then be asked to submit your details, so your name, email, and then your username and password. And once you click that you've read the general terms and conditions, you click continue, and a validation email will be sent to your account. And once you have validated your account, you can come back to the home page here and log in. Okay, so I'll just log into my own account here. So you have your username, your password. As you can see, it's very user friendly. It was made for teachers and students with all levels of digital skills. So here we have the main home page here. So if you scroll down here, you can see the film catalogue with the 10 films that I previously mentioned. And sorry now, 1 second. Okay, so you can see the 10 films that I previously mentioned, and some extracts and mind maps, which I'll explain in a minute. So if you come up to the top here, over here in the corner, I have my profile. So I click on my name there, and I can go into my profile. So here I have my information, so teacher in Manor House in Dublin, photo there that you can edit if you wish, and I have the subjects that I teach and the age groups that I teach to. So everything that I create or any information about me will be here in my profile, and you can edit that at any time. Just going back to the home page there. Just to explain the tabs up here as well, if you click here, you can choose between any of the 8 languages. So I have mine in English at the moment. This tab here then, accessibility. There are different options that will modify the site and the tools in case you have any students that have any additional educational needs. You can modify it to suit them. So come down here. Oh, sorry, actually, just one more. If I go into this section here, my classes, okay? So I have my groups here. If I want to create a new class, I click on this button over here. I click the name of the class, validate. Okay, so when I come down here, this is the class that I've just created. And as you can see here, I have a class code. So I copy and paste this code, and I send it to my students. I send it via Teams, or you can email it to them, or simply write it on the board. So once the students have this code, just come back here. The students will go to this link, the same link that you did. They will click free registration, and they will go to I am a student and enter the code there, okay, and then continue. And again, they will be given login details then, and that will be their profile then. Okay, so each student in your class will have their own profile where they can make their own mind maps and clips and work on the film individually as part of your class. Okay, so just to go back then to the actual site. Okay, so if we come down here then to the catalogue, we'll go into the Secret of Kells. So you can see it takes me to the main page there for the Secret of Kells. So we have a general synopsis of the film, some information, And here we have the educational kit that I was talking about earlier. So this is a step-by-step guide of activities that you can use in the classroom, and Edmund will go into more detail on the kit for the Secret of Kells later. You also have a media kit, which consists of images that were used to promote the film. So you can share those then and use them because you are licensed to, basically, if you're a member of this platform. So coming back up here then, you have the option to watch the trailer over here. You have the option to watch the film. You can stream it. Okay. I'm not sharing my sound, so you won't be able to hear the sound, but just to show you, so you have the logo there, and then if you come down here, you can click the subtitles, so you can choose whichever subtitles you require, and the movie is there ready for you to watch. You can also download the film if you want to watch it offline. And here then, if you click on this button, create, this is what I want to show you in more detail. So you have two options here then. You can create a personalized extract, or you can create a mind map based on the film. Okay, so I'll bring you through this one first. If you want to create a personalized extract, go in here. So if I want to create an extract of Secret of Kells, I obviously have to go into the film first. Okay, so I have the movie here. You can see down here that there's a start and end time. The maximum is 5 minutes. So if you already know the timing of your clip, that's fine. You can type it in there. If not, you can simply drag the arrows here. So I might go to the first time that Brendan meets Aisling, which is around there, I think. So I can watch a preview of my extract. Okay, so yeah, that I'm happy. That's the extract that I want. So I click continue. Now, the second step here, okay, as you can see, I've completed the first step, I've created my extract, and now I'm going to annotate it, okay? This isn't compulsory. You can choose to annotate it or not. You can skip if you don't want to annotate this extract, skip this step, okay? So if you want to add text, you come over here, click the A. So I am going to choose framed text. I also have the option of creating a full slide, okay? But I just want to include just one sentence of text maybe, okay? So I can choose if I wanted to display for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15, etc. Okay. I can choose whether I want to pause the video when my annotation comes up as well. And I can also choose the position. So if I want it at the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen, and you can kind of move it around. Okay, so if I want to say the first time Brendan meets Aisling, okay, obviously, you know, if you're doing a proper project, you would have deeper insights here. So I can change the color of the text. Just hover there and I'll choose green. Yeah, and the background color. Yeah, sure. I'll make it black, and then I just click save. And you can do the same with an image. You can add in an image into your extract by uploading it from your device. Okay, so you'd have to Google the image and save it to your device first. You can also include a voice clip. Okay, and I found this is great as a teacher. I might select an extract for students to work on at home, and I, if I have something that I want to explain in detail, I'll just record a quick um, audio file just of myself explaining what I want the students to do. So it's great for homework, and the text is great for homework as well, because you can type in specific questions at certain stages, at certain points in the extract. So once you're happy with that, then you can look at your preview. So you can see there you have the text, it displayed at the start. Obviously you can have it displaying for longer, but mine is just displaying for 5 seconds. So I'm happy with that then, and I'll continue on. So that's my extract there. My third step here now is description. Okay, so my extract title, I can have Brendan meets Ashling. Okay, and then for my description, I'll just say main characters meet for the first time. Okay, then I have to select which subjects this extract applies to. Okay, because the thing with the European Film Factory platform is that it's for teachers of all subjects. So it's not restricted to language teachers or English teachers, or even teachers just with an in-depth knowledge of film education. It's for anyone. So you could use this with drama, history, etc. Okay, and then student ages. Then you just type in maybe just select what groups it might be suitable for, and then some themes, maybe adventure, childhood, etc. Okay, so once I have that done, then click continue, and I'm on the fourth and final step then, sharing and posting. So I can select whether I want my extract to be public, and I can choose whether I want to allow teachers to duplicate my extract or not. Okay, so if it's public, anyone who is registered, any teacher registered on the European Film Factory can see my extract. And now that and since I've allowed them to duplicate it, they can save it and modify it themselves. Okay. Your other option is to make it private and select only me. So if it's an extract that you don't want to publish just yet, or you want to come back to, you can just save it to yourself, to your own profile. You can also share it with your students. So I can select, okay, my TY Cinema Studies class, and I can also allow them to duplicate it, and they can modify it themselves. So the final step then is to save the extract. Okay, and I have it there. I have the option to watch it, modify it. There's the details that I entered, and if I want to go back to that, I go up here to my name again, and I go back into my extracts. Okay, and I'll find them in there. Okay, 1 second now. I just want to make sure there's no. Okay, I'll continue then. So if I come back then to the main page, and I'll briefly just show you now how to make a mind map before I pass you over to Edmund. So into the Secret of Kells, I want to make a mind map based on this film. So I go into create again, and now I select a mind map. So we have 3 steps here: creation, description, sharing, and posting. So if you see in the middle here, the mind maps will always start out with an image of your film in the middle. So if I hover my mouse over that image, you'll see a ring appears around it with different options. So I can enlarge the node, I can shrink it. If I go into edit here, the pencil, I can change the title of it. I can add a description to it. I can change the size, the color. I can change the image in the middle. I just have to Google an image and copy and paste the URL in here. I can change the actual shape of the node, etc. Okay, so let's say I want to create one of the parts of my mind map, and I want to base it on the actual Book of Kells. Okay, so I go up here to the top and I click add device. So I just click then on my screen and I have a blank node. Okay, so I'm going to call this the Book of Kells, and in here you could include maybe a link to an article about the Book of Kells, a link to information about it, etc. I can add in a description. I can change again the size. I can change the color of it. I can change the thickness, and then I can also add in an image URL. So if I Google then an image and I go in here, I can just copy the image address and put it in there. So as you can see, the image has come up there. So to link it back to my main node here in the middle, then I click this symbol here that looks like a chain, and I just drag it down and click on this node. Okay, so again with the link as well, you can also edit that. So I can put a title here. I can change the color of it again, the thickness. I can choose if there's an arrow or not. I can change the direction of the arrow, etc. Okay. Another thing I can do then over in the sidebar here, right? So if I put in the Book of Kells, okay. So if I come to this little side arrow here, I can choose to search Wikipedia in English or French, German, etc. I can click that there, and I can see here that there's an article about the Book of Kells from Wikipedia. Okay, so what I do is I hold down on that, keep holding it with your mouse, drag it over and drop it there. Okay, so now I've created a new node that will take me to that Wikipedia article on the Book of Kells. So again, I'm going to link that back to my main node, and I've created another part of my mind map. The last thing then that I want to show you, the extract that I made earlier. If I come back over here and I choose EFF, the actual platform, and I type in Brendan and Aisling, that's the name of my extract, I can choose my extract here, and again I'm going to drag it over and drop it, and you can see I have my extract there. And again, you can add in a description about it, you can change the size, the color, etc. So again, I'm going to link that back to my main node. Okay, so you've so many options here. There's so much room for creativity with this. So I'm satisfied. I'll continue on. Again, I'll call it Secret of Kells information. Okay, I add a description. Again, I put in my subjects. It's up to you. Student ages and the themes. Okay, So you continue on then, and again, you have your options for publication. So you can make it public, you can make it private, share with certain students, and then don't forget to save it. Okay, so here I have my mind map then. So this is what the finished project would look like. So you can see that if I hover over the nodes, I have the link there for the article. And there'll also be, like, if I've added any other information to that node, that will show up there. Same with the Book of Kells. I can get a closer image, a closer look at that image. And I might have written a description in there. Same with the extract. I can click into that and it will take me to the extract to watch. Okay, so that's pretty much the ins and outs of the platform itself. So what I will do now, I'll just stop sharing my screen there, and any questions, you can just pop them into the chat. I will pass you on now to Edmund, who's going to take you through some of the activities from the educational kit based on the Secret of Kells. Okay, thanks so much.
That's great. Thanks very much indeed, Kira, for that introduction. So you're welcome again, everybody, and it's great to have so many teachers here from across Europe. I'm just going to talk you through some of the activities which I engaged my own students with on the Secret of Kells. And my students are first year students, so they're aged around 12, 13 years. And we spent about 5 classes working on the Secret of Kells. So I'll take you through it step by step, and I'm just hoping that you might get perhaps 1 or 2 ideas that might be helpful to you going forward. So when you download the kit then, the educational kits which Kira spoke about, they all have a very similar structure and a very similar format. And this is great because when you begin to work through one film, you'll find if you move on to another film that they have a very similar formats, which means that, it might be a little bit strange, first of all, getting to know what's in the kit, but after you've done one film, you really know your way around the kit, which is helpful to us as teachers. So as you can see there from the contents page of the kit itself for the Secret of Kells, it starts off with some general information and basically a synopsis, a very concise synopsis for ourselves, for teachers. Can I just remind you as well that the kits were really designed and written for teachers, so I wouldn't really recommend that you photocopy reams and reams of these notes and hand them out to the students. They really are, as I say, for teachers. And then there's a little bit about the analysis of the film, some of the context and the background to the film, a little bit about the genre of the film as well, and there'll be a kind of an overview of some of the reviews which the film would have received from critics at the time of its launch. And then the section on classroom activities concludes the book itself, right? The educational kit. So most of the kits have up to 5 activities on them. Now you can see here for the Secret of Kells, there are 5 different activities that are suggested. Okay, now it's quite clear, I'm sure, to all of you, but just in case you have any questions about it, that the activities are only suggestions. I mean, they in no way are meant to be prescriptive for teachers. So we're all going to adapt the approaches, we're going to change things, we're going to adopt them and so on. In other words, it's very flexible and it really depends on a number of things. It depends on the school context, on the resources you have with your students. It depends on the level of film literacy that your students have at any particular time. And it depends, of course, as well on your learning outcomes. Like for your own students, what do you want to achieve? I mean, it's very fine to say you want the students to enjoy the film, and that's wonderful that they would enjoy film. I mean, that's an important step for the students. But we probably have other learning outcomes as well. So in my case, for example, I would have gone away and thought about some of the learning outcomes that I wanted my students to achieve by the end of the 5 classes. And I won't go through them all, obviously, in detail there, but you can see that, of course, I want my students to enjoy the film, and I mean, it is a terrific film. But I also want them to be more critical viewers of the film as well, to adapt a curious approach, And I want them to be able to critically analyze as well as personally analyze and make meaning of the film and get a sense of what it might mean for them. So there's a real sense of the individual making the individual effort, but in the class as well, you're trying to get the students to engage in some kind of collaborative appreciation of cinema. And of course, we all know that going into a cinema on your own or with 4 or 5 people in the cinema, it's just not the same experience when you're there with a larger group of people. And certainly in the classroom, when that larger group of students are engaging and discussing and sharing ideas, it just brings the whole film to life. And I'm sure a lot of you would have had that experience yourselves with your own students. From the kit, anyway, I had to look at the 5 activities, and I decided for my first year students that the 2 activities that would work best for my students would have been the starter activity and the activity on the director's choices and filmic means. So before I kicked off with the film, right, and I'm sure again some of you would do this, I decided to do a little bit of pre-teaching for one class. Now my lessons would be 1 hour long. So in a 1 hour class, I had 3 kind of activities pre-planned that I wanted the students to engage with before we actually viewed any of the film at all. The first one there, right, wouldn't be atypical. A lot of teachers would do this, where I just source a poster, I sourced a DVD cover, and I sourced the cover of a book on the Secret of Kells. And we had a really good discussion there about, the differences, the similarities between the different posters. I already had a few hinge questions ready to go about the colors, about the type style, about the characters that were showing up on those different images and so on. And that really did generate, conversations about design, about color, about key characters and so on. Excuse me. It was interesting as well the way the students could pick out, similarities. They could see characters in one poster appearing centrally in another poster. And even that little image there, somebody picked up Brother Aidan there on the bottom right hand corner of the poster on the left. And they picked him up obviously on the right hand side there, where he's a kind of he's a comrade if you want, he's a colleague if you want to Brendan in their pursuit of completing the actual book itself. So that worked really well. It got them talking about images, it got them talking about color, it got them talking about possibilities in terms of relationships and characters and so on. From there, then we would have done just a little bit about the different types of camera shot and camera angle. Now, again, it'll depend on the level of literacy. My students were first year students, so I only had taken them in from primary school, and I wouldn't have known a lot about the extent of their knowledge of film. So it was a good way for me as well to elicit prior knowledge of film and give me a sense of where I want to go with the class. We also then had a little look and a talk about colour and the importance of colour as a symbol in the film. Now, of course, in the animated film itself, colour plays a huge role, and I'm sure some of you have already viewed the film and you will appreciate just how incredible the colouring is in the actual film itself. So we talked about different colours, the way they can represent different ideas and different symbols and so on. So blue, for example, which figures prominently in the film, represents thoughtfulness. Another colour that represents, yellow represents the sun, and that's a huge colour in the film. And of course, red is very dominant as well, particularly when there's the possibility of an attack. Red really comes into its own. From that then, I gave them just a little bit of background information about Celtic art. Now, I didn't want to go into this too deeply, because it's not an art class as such, but I reckon that they might be interested in some of the symbols in Celtic art, such as, for example, the circle, which represents, the sun and the moon, the heaven and the earth, the male and the female. We briefly talked about the spiral as well, which symbolizes growth and protection. And spirals, are all over the film, they're in the trees, they're in the forest, they're in the monastery, they're everywhere in the film, really. And we talked just a little bit again about zoomorphic ornament, the way in which animals were used to represent different qualities and so on. So they really enjoyed that. And they enjoyed it, in fact, so much that I had an idea then that I might just get them to design their own initials. And luckily enough, I was able to collaborate with an art teacher in our school, and she had done some Celtic art with her second year students the previous year. So when I went down to her, she was able to give me some examples of their work. Now, I've brought these back to my own class, not as models that they should all emulate and you all have to be up to this standard, but it was great for generating discussion. And when we threw these up on the overhead behind me, it was great that the students could talk then about the different animals they could see. They could talk about the spirals, they could talk about patterns, about color, and so on. And then, of course, they wanted to try to create their own, and they did, and they really enjoyed it. Now, they wouldn't have been obviously up to the standard of the art students here, but they really enjoyed it, and they came out with things like that. There's an R, and there's a B there, first initial of two different students. So for me, it got them talking about color, it got them talking about design, shape, animals, and so on. And I thought that was a good prep before they actually go and watch the earlier scenes of the film. From that moment, then we pushed on in the second class and we decided to view the film. Now, I know some teachers, and I've done this myself, and I've no issue with it whatsoever, would watch the film right through the full 75 minutes. But on this occasion, I decided that I'd watch it over 4 sequences of approximately 20 minutes each. And that meant for me and for the students that it did give us quite a lot of time then to discuss the film, both beforehand and after we watched the sequence. Also, the students had to keep a kind of a personal film journal. And in the film journal, they had to complete some questions. For example, questions about, who was the main character in the sequence today? Was there a conflict there? What would have been the key idea in the sequence they saw today? If they had a favorite scene, and so on. And then for homework at the end of the class, I would put up a number of suggestions on the board, and I was asking the students then to write their own personal response to issues such as sound in the film or music, color, maybe a few camera shots that they noticed, perhaps something about relationships that they saw developing as the film moved on, and anything that they might change. Is there anything that they would do differently if they were directing the film? Now, when they would come back into class then the following day with those responses, that's where the discussion kicked off again, and they were able to share ideas and so on. And it was actually a great opportunity as a teacher to get the students to become resources for each other, because when they were coming back with their ideas, which are really interesting ideas, I was able then as the teacher to try to bounce those ideas off each other and throw questions and throw points and ask other students what were their opinions of what some student taught and so on. So I got a real sense as a teacher that the students were taking ownership of this film, that it wasn't just me, like the sage on the stage, telling the students what to think about this film. These students were generating their own meaning, and it was interesting to see that they realized very quickly that they don't all take the same meaning from the same film, which in itself, of course, is a great lesson for them to learn. So when we concluded watching the film, then we went, as I said, for the starter activity. Now, the initial few suggestions there, we already had those covered, really, about the impressions of the character, memorable characters, and so on. They really would have covered those when we talked about the film journal and they filled the responses into the film journal. So the first activity I went for was where the students had to take and choose 3 framed shots, or more if they wanted to, and talk about the framed shots and the impact that they think those framed shots made on the film itself. So we would have, as Kira demonstrated, we would have gone to the extract facility and they would have been searching through the extract and picking little extracts, right? And it was great to see, as I was walking around the classroom, the students were working away, picking different extracts and so on. And it was lovely to see their independence, that were working with their own device, looking at an extract, deciding that it's not really an interesting one for them, changing it, going to a different extract and so on, until they finally found an extract in which they thought, yeah, I like those particular scenes in that extract. And it gave them a real sense of agency, that they weren't all watching the same screen at the same time, that they had that agency to pick and choose their own scenes. So we took that then, they took the shots then, and they would have copied and pasted those shots into something like a PowerPoint. And here's an example that I brought with me today, where the student has taken 2 frames here, and there's another frame in the next slide. And if you don't mind, I'll just share what she wrote about it, because it is very interesting what she's picking up on here. So the first one, she's saying, I like the 2 different shots of Iona. They are both long shots. In the first frame, the island was colored green, and the monastery was surrounded by a low wall. Green represents growth, nature, and inspiration. I imagine the scriptorium might be in the building with the yellow roof. The yellow colour is also emphasized in the sun against the light blue sky. Overall, the picture makes me feel it is an isolated place and a peaceful place, and the colour blue in the frame highlights this for me. So some interesting insight there about colour coming through in her comments. And then she took the same location, if you want, but a different shot, obviously. And she wrote, I love the way the director made such a big contrast with the second frame. Iona looks like a completely different place. The colour red is very striking and immediately makes me think of danger. The sea is boiling red, and the waves, which were just ripples in the first frame, are now more threatening. Many shapes are jagged and pointed compared to the curves of the first frame. The black sea creatures on either side of the frame suggest that the island is surrounded and in danger. The sky is black and red and filled with shapes that look like weapons. The visual made me feel that an attack on the monastery is about to happen, and it also tells me why Brother Aidan abandoned Iona and arrived at Kells. And then for her third frame, she took this one here of Brendan, and she wrote, my third frame shows Brendan handing over Goose's feather to Abbot Ceallaigh. I like this frame for two reasons. First, taking the feather from Brendan shows us that Ceallaigh is not bothered with the book. His main concern is with the wall, which we can see in the background of the shot. The second reason I like it is that I noticed how different the walls are around the monasteries. The wall at Iona seems to be very low, but Ceallaigh's wall is much higher and needs a scaffolding to build. The frame helped me to understand why Ceallaigh is so determined to build taller walls, because he is fearful of an attack like the one at Iona. So that would be, I won't say typical now, but there were several responses, as insightful as that one there. And it's great to see them developing an appreciation, of what's going on with Tom Moore there as the director of the film. The next activity at the bottom of the starter activity was to write about the ending of the film. Anything at all they wanted to say about the ending of the film. So another student here took this particular sequence here where Tom Moore, the director, he shows the two characters travel across the screen. And the idea of it is to mark time. Now, one of the students, it was a boy in this case, he picked this up very well. And very cleverly, he got the scenes from the extract, cut them, right, or snipped them with a snipping tool, and then pasted three of them together. And he put them together actually very well there, almost seamlessly. Put them together as one kind of slide on a PowerPoint. And then he commented here below, he said, I like the way the director showed time passing at the end of the film. In this scene, he showed three different settings, forest, mountain, and valley, and Brendan and Brother Aidan walked across the three settings. But as they crossed the frame, you could see that they got older. For example, in the first frame, Brendan is smaller than Brother Aidan, but in the last frame, Brendan is now a young man and Aidan is elderly, walking with a stick. So a very nice little comment there. The second activity I went to then was the activity about filmic means and the different choices that a director can make in making a movie. And this one in particular, what we did was we asked the students to create stills from the film to illustrate a particular theme. And at the end of that, then we gave them the option to create a very short film for 1 minute on a theme of their own choice. So the students went away again and were using the extract facility and were looking for images and scenes that they found to be of interest to them. One student took the theme of power and he created a slideshow. He had 3 slides in it and he decided to call it physical power in the film. So 2 interesting shots here, obviously representing physical power. And then his third image, he had this one here after the attack on the monastery itself. So he reflected as follows, and he said that the frame shows the power of the Northmen over Brother Ceallaigh. It's a low-angle shot, and it looks up to the Northmen who stand over Ceallaigh. They're standing tall in a position of power. He lies helplessly wounded on the ground. Images of violence and power are also in the frame. There is a metal sword and an arrow in the picture. The dominant color is red, and this creates a threatening atmosphere and suggests the bloodshed at the scene of the attack. But I also noticed that one of the Northmen is wearing a golden torque around his neck. This tells me that their purpose was to plunder the monastery. So again, I mean, we know ourselves as teachers that when our students are coming back to us, it's very satisfying for ourselves as educators to see their minds developing, to see their appreciation and their understanding of cinema developing and deepening and so on. Here's another really good example for one of the girls in the class where she took 5 different shots to illustrate the theme of illumination. And she had some lovely comments about the first 3 shots that she chose as well. I won't go through all of those now just to save a bit of time. For example, on the second one there, she had a lovely comment about this is Brendan's hand here in the close-up shot. And she talked about the way in which the spiral represents growth. And the idea was that Brendan was growing as well. It wasn't just a book that was growing into completion, but it was Brendan growing in understanding and skill as well. For the 4th shot she took there, she said the director included an image of stars to show time passing. It can also suggest that Brendan's work is inspired. The blue colouring represents thoughtfulness. This frame is almost completely filled with spiral designs, and spirals symbolise hope. So this frame makes me think that the book will be completed. And then for the 5th shot, she wrote down, finally, the book is completed. It has the power to bring light to the darkness, which was a really interesting comment there that links up beautifully with the shot itself. I love the way people gathered around the book and they are happy. At the end of that, then, there was an optional activity, which was to invite the students to create a 1-minute film on a theme of their choice. Now, again, what I love about the steps here is that they're very flexible. I mean, these are only suggestions, and you can, cut and paste, you can adapt, you can change and so on, whatever you want to. And when I was sharing this with the students, the suggestion there was that the students shouldn't be using the camera movement at all, that they shouldn't be panning and they shouldn't be tilting the camera at all. But my students anyway at the time, no, they weren't happy with that at all. They wanted to be the next Steven Spielberg or whoever. They wanted to get out there and literally use their devices. So I said, right, we'll forget about that then. You can use your tilt shot, your panning shot, or whatever you want to do. Now, when they came back to class, and in total, I'd say about 12 students out of 26 would have completed it, right? So they all didn't complete it. But the students who did complete it, when they came back in, it was actually lovely the way it worked because I got each of them to introduce their film, first of all, before they showed anything, talk a little bit about the context and so on. And then when we played the film, there was a great round of applause for the director. And then the student director had to take questions from the rest of the students in the class. So again, it was a good example of the way in which you can use the activities, to inspire yourself, and, you can adjust them and change things to suit your own students. And your students more than anybody else. So you know exactly what you should present to them as an option or as an activity. I had a little film there, it's just not showing up at the moment, right, where she went into a park and she took a lovely 1.5 minutes footage of ducks on a lake, and it was really, really well done, but it doesn't seem to be showing there for now. So look, when we finished the film then, it took about 5 classes to get through all of that. I got the students to reflect on it. And I'm not going to read through all of that now, but it was really very positive overall. I mean, certainly as a teacher, I was delighted because I got a sense that they did really enjoy the film. But very interestingly enough for me, I also get a sense that it's not just that they enjoyed the film. What really made it for some students was they really enjoyed appreciating the film as part of a group of students. And they really appreciated sharing the film and their ideas with the film with one another. And that comes across in quite a few of the comments, right? That yes, the film was enjoyable, but we also really enjoyed sharing our ideas with other students. There was also a really interesting comment there in the second one where a student is expressing that they were frustrated because they were working on their phone at the time and they were trying to make an extract, but whatever device it was, they couldn't get the phone to show the extract in landscape. It was showing up all of the time in portrait, And that made it really difficult for them to annotate the extract and so on. And he commented that it was a really frustrating experience. So you can be ready for that as well. Some things perhaps won't work with the technology, you know, but overall, it was really positive. Um, and just to let you know as well, there are 3 other activities that I didn't touch on at all, right? And just very briefly, I want to go through them with you very, very briefly. One is about the hero's journey, and it talks about the idea of the hero, you know, meeting a challenge, going through certain obstacles, trying to overcome those obstacles and so on, and come out the side a better person. There's another great activity there about animation where you can get the students to try to animate some of the characters themselves. And if they try that one, there's a great link on page 7 of the introduction in the kit itself. If you go to page 7 and you click on the link, and it'll bring you to a website which has maybe a few hundred different drawings from the film itself. And these are great to inspire the students and give them something to work off if they want to try to animate some of the characters. That could be a great activity. Now, as I said, I haven't tried that one, but again, it's something I could come to maybe next year with a different group. There's also a really interesting one about Vikings. And the idea here is that you break the students into groups and they go searching in different media for how Vikings have been portrayed. And then they compare that with the portrayal of Vikings in the film. So they can go to television, go to video games, social media, and so on. And that would be certainly a really interesting activity for maybe students who are a little bit older. Okay, so that's all I have time to talk to you about this evening. But Kira and I'm going to hand back to Kira and we can take questions. If you'd like to ask us some questions now, we'd be delighted to chat.
Thanks a million, Edmund. That was absolutely stunning. Some of the work that the students did, the insights were just beautiful. Um, so, like Edmund said, if you have any questions, if you want to pop them in the chat, we have a few minutes. Um, yeah, so a lot of people asking about the PowerPoint. So um, we we can inquire if it's possible for the PowerPoints to be sent to the mailing list for this seminar. So that should be no problem. The link to the YouTube as well is the YouTube channel is in this chat. So you can access the recording of this webinar and all the other webinars. And obviously, any of the PowerPoints that were shared will be in the YouTube videos. Will there be more films coming on the platform soon? Yes, hopefully. Those films haven't been decided yet, but the plan is that more films will be added as the platform gains more popularity. There. What made you choose Stella? Well, the films that were chosen by a jury made up of different members of the Institut Français and the other partners. Um, so myself and Edmund didn't play a part in choosing the films, but we did work on the analysis of them. But um, I suppose Stella was just chosen because of its cultural importance. Um, I can't speak for the members of the jury who chose the films, obviously, but personally, just from watching it, it's a very important film, especially in the history of Greek cinema. And it was one of the films that I actually worked on, and I really enjoyed working on it. Stella, just as a feminine character, she's so powerful and independent, and it's so refreshing. Let me have a look there. Sorry, just looking through the chat there. Um, okay, I don't see any more questions coming through there, so I'd be happy to leave it at that. Thank you again so much for attending and for all of your kind comments. I really hope you enjoyed it. And again, the YouTube channel is there, the link is there. So any of the recordings of the webinars that have taken place so far will be available there. So best of luck with using the platform and introducing these wonderful films to your students. And thank you very much again for joining us.
Bye bye.
Bye
Bye
now.
everybody.
Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks a lot. Have a nice evening. Bye.